Right, so hi, welcome to this tutorial. What you're going to do today is learn how to import or place your sketches, your generation of ideas into your Adobe Illustrator document to develop a logo for. So you'll be developing and refining your logo using Adobe Illustrator. So the first thing that you need to do is go to File, New. And if you already have this page open, then you're going to select A3, which is 420 by 297. And we want to have the width 420 and the height 297 millimeters so that it fits nicely onto your laptop computer. You'll see here it should have CMY color because we're working in color. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which is a 4-color printing process, which if you send it out to a printer, they would separate into those 4 colors. And it's going to be 300 pixels per inch, and then you'll click on Create. So the reason you're using Illustrator and not Photoshop is because Illustrator is a vector program, which means that it's made up of lines. If you were to create a logo really small and enlarge the size, scale it up by, say, 500%, it would still maintain sharp, clean lines, scale and proportion. If you were to do the same in Photoshop, which is a raster-based program, it's made up of pixels of little dots, and it would become blurry and out of focus. So that's why you create logos using Adobe Illustrator. So first what you're going to do is you've all scanned your sketches that you've done. So you'll go to File and down to Place. And then you will click on the image that you want to import into Adobe Illustrator and just click on Place. And then click on the background and move it into place. Okay, so there I have my page that's centered pretty much on here. What I want to do is I want to lock this into the background so that when I go to work on my page, if I click on the background, I'm not going to be continually selecting this by mistake and moving it around. It's always good to lock it into place. Also, you may want to trace directly on top of your logo that you have drawn. So lock it into place and it doesn't get in your way. So you'll just go Object, Lock, Selection. Now, if I want to at some stage move that or delete it, then I would just go Object, Unlock All. Okay, so we've got that centered now. The next thing I want you to do is go up to Window and down to Workspace and make sure that you have Essentials Classic selected. Often it just selects Essentials and it doesn't show you as many options. So click on Essentials Classic, and what that does is it opens up 2 panels of tools in your tool palette. Those tools are hidden in just the Essentials and they're still there, but they're just underneath arrows. So if you click on an arrow, it will show you other things that are hidden underneath there. So this is your tool palette here. So the first tool that we'll be using is the rectangle tool, but we'll be clicking on there. You can see there's arrows. So we've got the rectangle, rounded rectangle tool, ellipse tool, polygon tool, and so on. So I'm going to click on the polygon tool because I want to create a triangle. So I'll click on the background without clicking and dragging, just click. And then my radius, I'll just set that as 100, and sides, I just want 3. So we'll click on that there. So as you can see, it brings up a triangle. The triangle has sharp edges. It doesn't yet look like at all like this shape here, and it's filled in black. What I want to do is just have an outline for now so that I can see everything that I'm working with when I start adding more lines and shapes and things like that. So in my tool palette here, this black box represents the fill color, which is the black here. This one here represents the outline. When there's a red diagonal line going through, it means that there's no fill. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the swap fill and stroke arrow, and so that switches it around. So now I've got my black outline and I can start working on that. So I'm going to click with the selection tool. So this is the selection tool in the tool palette. This is the one, if I want to select the entire shape, then I would select that. if I just want to select, say, one element of the shape, one line to adjust, then I would use the direct selection tool. So with the selection tool, so if you hover over here, you can see that there's a circle. That's showing me that I can add corners, and this is a great feature of the newer versions of Adobe Illustrator. So I can just drag it to get whatever curve I want. So it's looking much closer to the watermelon shape. I can then get one of the sides and carefully drag it in so that it's becoming a bit more narrow to look a bit more like that as well. Now I can see that this is more curved down the bottom, and I could also curve that, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to worry about that for now. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start applying all the different elements of the logo that are there. So I'm going to start with the window first. So I'm going to go over where I selected the polygon tool before, click and hold down, and then select the rectangle tool. I don't want a rectangle, I want a perfect square. So to do that, I'm going to click and drag, but as I drag, I'll hold down the Shift key. And so what that does is it scales the vertical and horizontal so that it's a perfect square. So I've got a square now. You can see it's off center. So what you're going to do is you're going to click and drag with the selection tool just over these two objects. So it will select the whole lot then. Up the top, you have all the alignments that you can choose. So I'm going to horizontal align. So you can see there that vertical line goes through and it's aligning objects with one another on the horizontal axis. So I clicked on that and now I've got those centers. So I don't need to try and measure it myself. Then I'm going to click on my window and I'm going to start dragging it. But after I start dragging it, I'm going to click on the Alt key. What that does is it duplicates. And I have to click on the Alt key after I start dragging it, not at the same time, or it will just move it, it won't duplicate it. Okay, so I'm moving it down. Now what you can see is there's a pink line that's showing up. So that's aligning the bottom left side of the box with the top right-hand side of the box. So, and that's what I want. So I'm going to hold that there. And then I'm going to start dragging it across. And then I'm going to hold down the Alt key. And then I will hold down the Shift key. And see the pink line comes up. So it's showing me that it's aligned with the base and the side of the top square. And I'll release it. Now what the Shift key does is it aligns it on the same horizontal, vertical or diagonal axis. So rather than having to try and measure or move with the arrow up and down, it simply takes it along that same axis. You can sort of feel it lock in. So now I have my windows and I'm going to add the window panes. So I'm going to select the line segment tool. And when you're doing more detailed work, you should zoom in a bit. Okay, that's better. So with the line segment tool, if I hover, see it shows me again it's the intersect. It's showing me that it's intersecting with the middle of the window, which is what I want. I want it nice and centered. So I'm just going to click and drag across to the other side. But I'm going to also hold down the Shift key so I know that it's perfectly straight. If I don't hold down the Shift key, I could end up with a bit of a wonky line. So that will make sure that it is perfect. And then I'm going to hover over the top, and when I see that pink line, I'm going to click. And again, I'm going to hold down the Shift key so it locks it into that vertical line. And there I have a window pane. And I'm going to do the same with these ones. So click and drag, but also hold down the Shift key. When this little sticky keys button comes up, just go no. And then click and drag, and click and drag. Okay, so now I have my windows. The next thing I'm after is the door. So I could make the door like that. Now to make it centered, if I do the align, select everything and do the align center now, I'll show you what will happen. So what happens is everything aligns on top of each other. So if you do a mistake, just do Control Z to undo it. So what I will do first is I will click and drag on top of the outline and the windows, and Control G will group that selection. So that will stay, that's not going to move. Now I will click and drag to select with the selection tool, not the direct selection tool, the grouped object with the door, and then I'll click the horizontal align tool again, and see now that moves everything into alignment. So you want to make sure that if you've got multiple images, they're all grouped, otherwise everything will go on top of each other. Okay, so now I have my door. I deliberately took my door over the base of the shape, and I'll show you later what I'm going to do to fix that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to do this line across here, which is for the rind of the watermelon. So I'll get the line segment tool, and I will click it about here, hold down the shift key and drag it again. I've gone over the outside edge, and that's for a reason, which again I'll show you later. Okay, so now we're at this point. If you want to see the full page, just do Control 0, and that will fit the full page into your screen. If you want to zoom in or out, you can do Control plus or Control minus, or you can get the magnifying tool and you can click and drag, and that will take it in and out for you as well. Okay, so now you're at this stage. Before you go any further, you need to save your work. So File, Save As, and you should give it your name and what it is. Now, this logo that has been sketched isn't my logo. It's been done by a student. And then we just go, okay. So a student has given me permission to use their logo for this demonstration. Okay, and we'll stop and we'll start again with the next part of the tutorial.